Now back in our newsroom, there's a lot of talk on both sides to how the situation at the border impacts these children, but it also places a big burden on our courts as well. I was at the federal courthouse in Brownsville where former HUD Secretary Julian Castro visited to watch federal court proceedings, and just today there were over 100 cases on the docket alone. Behind the glass door of the Reynaldo G. Garza and Filemon B. Vela courthouse in Brownsville, dangling chains are heard inside of a courtroom where dozens of apprehended immigrants fearfully wait to stand in front of a magistrate judge for crossing into the U.S. illegally. A process former U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Julian Castro was able to get a first-hand look Monday morning.
This is the first time that I've seen the process, and right away, some of the things that I can tell are number one, that the system is overworked.
During the hearing, just over 50 immigrants from Mexico, Guatemala, and other Central American countries filled up the courtroom, all with headphones hooked to their ears, chains around their wrists, and some their ankles, awaiting their name to be called. But instead of being called individually, they were called all at once. Castro says during the observation he wondered if the defendants are really getting justice.
A few of them graduated from high school, so you know that they probably don't have a great understanding of what's happening. At the same time, they're not raising their hand to ask any questions about the instructions, about their lawyer. So what's happening is you have to wonder, is this really justice? Or is it just sort of running through the paces? Mm-hmm. And this is part of the reason that we need comprehensive immigration reform.
Castro explained the comprehensive immigration reform would ensure the proceedings will have some meaning by taking more time on each individual case. This all comes as part of his trip in the Rio Grande Valley. On Sunday, he stood outside the processing center in McAllen, where he expressed his thoughts towards President Trump's zero-tolerance policy. He said from his findings, he's more convinced that half of the defendants are not aware of what is happening to them, something he believes is unjust.
These proceedings don't give you ample opportunity to, I think, assert your claim of asylum properly. And I imagine that there are a whole bunch of people who come into this process and don't know what to expect, and then they leave it, they go through it, and they still don't know what happened. So there's a lot of room for improvement.
Now, we spoke with Marjorie A. Mayers, federal public defender for the Southern District of Texas, who tells us that there is confusion when being charged with illegal entry, but that federal public defenders do interview those that are in custody and explain what is happening and what their options are if they plead guilty